My life be like, yeah. My life be like, yeah. Yeah. My life be like, yeah. My life be like times like these that make you say, Lord, if the city just come my way, like you bring control when I stray. I'm sacrificing the price. My life be like living like a fingertip. Sometimes I fall, I slip. Yeah, more times I be more like you. Yeah, I got to put
Who would have thought a guy who wears tank tops in the snow could have anger issues?
I always feel like that's a good Monday morning intro.
Yeah, that's definitely how I feel on Mondays.
It rolls with the title too. It's great.
A little bit of roid rage going on.
Yeah. Although
Y'all
he
see
didn't
the,
he didn't have the jacked appearance, you know. Like
Say, have y'all seen the jacked RFK pictures that everyone saying that
everybody's
he's
been
on
sharing.
steroids?
I'd heard he was ripped, and then when I saw some of the pictures this weekend, I was like, "Oh shit!" Because he's like 60 or something, right?
I think he's pushing 70.
Oh Jesus!
I think he's 60, 69, about to turn 70. They said.
What?
But then I found it. There are like comparison pictures where they're showing
Like him when he was younger.
Yeah, him when he was younger. And it's like,
and it does there is a little bit of like a progression to it. Like you can see kind of that he's like getting a little bit more in shape each time. But
right, but I mean, it's not like this is a huge delineation from this. I mean, you know, they're a little more time, and his arms are roughly the same size. Like, it's not like he suddenly. The only thing that really changed is here he has a little more like ab definition, but it could just be old man. Like, there's not a. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not a significant difference between these two.
Yeah, he put on old man. It's not really fat, just flab. You know, the skin just gets looser, and it's just like it just looks like he put on some old man shape over that.
Yeah, it's not like a huge difference between these two pictures. I think it's getting. I don't know. They can't. I guess they can't ding him on any of his positions on stuff, basically. So now they have to go after him as being on roids because that matters or something.
Now I will say, like, he could have, like, on the previous two pictures, like, just as a counter argument, he could have been on roids, and like then all of a sudden, like, over time, obviously he gets more jacked. You know, like he could have been on roids, he gets more jacked, and then he just keeps using. You know. But I mean,
the whole time.
Yeah, he's just juicing. You know.
Well, it's hard to have an argument they're bad for you then if he's pushing 80.
Right.
Or 70, sorry.
Yeah, if he's 70 years old and looks that good, it seems like it's working out pretty well for him.
Do you do, buddy?
I think that's kind of I think that's kind of always been the thing with steroids, is that the ones who like completely lose control of their bodies and their testicles are the ones who like way overdo it. Like with alcohol and our weekend shenanigans, you know, all things in moderation, and you can come out all right.
Yeah, gotta do something to blow off some steam.
Well, there are guys who you know, they go on anabolic and they get a doctor to actually kind of oversee like what they're doing. You know, like, hey, doc, you know, can you make sure that I'm not like overdoing it? Essentially, like because different people have different bodies and everything. So like you need to like someone to kind of help you regulate it in some way. So I mean, definitely having something like that, you know, especially for people who are actually really public figures, that's definitely helps.
In college, I did creatine and some of that other stuff, like protein shakes and stuff like that, when I was trying to gain weight for basketball, and none of that shit ever did anything. I had a buddy who's like, I can get you some roids. I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna pass. I'm like, if nothing else is working, maybe it's just not meant to be. But he was talking about getting like the good stuff, not he was gonna make me turn into like Arnold Schwarzenegger from the 80s.
Here he is, the most perfect man in the universe. I don't know how the song goes for Mr. Universe.
Speaking of the universe, apparently New York City is cracking down on coal emissions because of fireplaces or the pizza joints, where they're using a coal burning stove and everything. And
I guess if it's a fire, then yeah, it's got to be something. Can just be gas.
Yeah, they're saying that this is making like huge carbon emissions, so they want them to cut down on it. So I don't know what these pizza, because that's their whole shtick, right? Is like being a pizzeria that's doing baking pizzas on a coal burning stove or whatever.
So what's New York City's alternative? They need to go away from using coal and wood burning stoves to using propane after they're banning propane ovens. Or gas? Is that what they're saying? They have to. Basically, what they're saying is, if you don't cook it in a microwave, you cannot cook it in New York City.
Right there, yeah, it is, because I was thinking too. It's like, oh man, they're putting themselves in a pickle here, with the gas stoves. You can't do that. I guess if I was them, I would argue that, okay, the issue with the gas and propane stoves or whatever is that it's bad for your lungs in the house, right? So if a place had, let's say, a pizza oven dealie was flame powered by gas, you could have the proper ventilation and whatnot to suck all that stuff out of the restaurant, and then it just goes in the air. Nobody cares about that. But
I think that's part of what they're saying here, is that it's about the ventilation, and it's not necessarily about like the fact that they're using the coal burning stove. It's about the fact that they they have a chute, or like a chimney, or pushing all that up into the atmosphere or whatever, something like that.
Right,
so,
all sorts of fans and whatnot.
Yeah, they need something else to kind of discipline.
I would be willing to bet that California's mismanagement of their forests and parks creates much more smoke in the atmosphere than every fucking
pizza joint in New York
in New York City combined for its entire life. Like,
oh, definitely.
And that's the same thing that caused the Canadian fires too. Was like all of these big like wildlife preserves and stuff, for these like land management areas that the government's supposed to be taking care of. They don't manage it properly, and then they end up creating these situations where a wildfire is just waiting to happen, and then when it does, there's nothing they can do about it, because they've literally spent decades destroying the natural ecosystem of these places. Like, Mother Nature tends to know how to take care of herself. She's been doing it for a long time. Even if she is a miserable cunt and I don't care for her most days, she knows how to take care of herself. And whenever government steps in and starts trying to do it for her, then we end up with, how is California on fire every fucking year? Like, hasn't the whole thing burned up yet? I'm still confused about that.
So the reason that they like have so many wildfires is a lot of times because they don't do controlled burns. They don't do any controlled burns, like basically ever, because they think that that's like contributing to the atmosphere stuff. So they won't burn off an area so it doesn't get to residential, or doesn't reach a certain threshold. So they won't burn off a patch to kind of reduce that risk. And then also the fact that they have a water situation. They don't they don't have a lot of their own water. They have to import a lot of water a lot of times to pump it in from other areas, or I think they've had to do it some from the ocean. They had to do it from different sources, but that combined with the fact that sometimes they just have arson. People a lot of those wildfires are a result of arson. So somebody
Imagine putting
random.
millions of people in a
Yeah.
desert and then blaming climate change for not having enough water.
yeah.
It's like was it Ellen out there? Look at this drainage ditch that's doing its job of collecting excessive rainwater in my backyard. Look at this. This is climate change. See this water here? It's only here twice a year. It's like, yes, you only get rain twice a year, bitch. It's doing its job.
Yeah.
It's there. It's not in your backyard. That's the point. Some man designed that, and it's actually functioning. God, in California, go figure. Fuck.
Something functioning in California. That's
It's a fucking miracle. You should be praising it. Oh, shit. It is just funny.
Also-
and
also,
especially after
like,
the sub
California-
thing, I don't. Sorry, go ahead.
Also, California, they have like so many rules. Like you can't collect the rainwater and everything. So like that's part of their water problem is they won't let them collect anything when they actually do get rain and everything.
Yeah.
That would just make logical sense. Like obviously, California is not a place. It's a place where logic goes to die. So.
Oh. Trying to get, I don't know what the Wagner Group is, so.
Oh
Yeah.
yes,
There is.
We'll get
Sorry,
there,
wait, not
we'll
yet.
get there.
Not yet. We're getting there.
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
there.
That's
we gotta work our way up to
the
that.
second half of the show. We got, I was gonna say while we were talking about dumb shit that and dumb government shit with the New York and their fireplaces and California and their poor forest management. Here's another government study that shows that something else is racist. BMI measurements are deemed racist in a new medical report. So if you're having your body mass index tested, that's racist because obviously there's a certain demographic that
Has a higher BMI.
right. Surprised they didn't
Samoans?
call it. I'm surprised they didn't call it misogynistic as well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just like statistically speaking, women have a higher BMI than men do. It just because we're built different. They're softer in certain places and designed to be so for childbearing and things like that. Whereas we are not built that way in those places. Well, not regular men. There are doughboys who are, but
You
they're
know
not
so you'll get
supposed
or
to be.
the flip floppers who change to become men.
Flip-floppers.
But those aren't usually built very well in those areas.
Oh no.
Well, enough surgery, you'll get it in there.
But yeah, BMI is racist because black people tend to have a higher body mass index.
You can get gun reduction surgery for the low price of $16,000. Gain that extra half inch you didn't even know was in there. Probably cheaper in Mexico.
Probably might be a little bit incrementally more dangerous, but
Yeah.
whatever. You get what you're paying for.
Hey,
mean,
man, that Tijuana
I think I trust-
medical
I think I trust the cartel
getting pretty
doctors.
good. Yeah. No, they it's a whole industry. I got a buddy who he does he leads like groups. Like he's done it a couple times. He'll take groups of people to Tijuana and sort of lead them there, help them get the medical stuff. But if you know what you're doing, I mean, it's way cheaper depending on what it is. But he had a friend who needed like $30,000 in dental surgery. Oh, what up? Needed like $30,000 in dental surgery. And it was well worth it for them to make 2 trips to Tijuana because I think
Carlos
they got it done
just
for, like,
puts the
less than
show
10
on
grand.
and waits for somebody to say Mexico, Hispanic, or
Mexican,
immigrant, and then
yeah.
he pops in. He's like, "Oh,
Somebody say Latinx.
there's my cue."
So
Reverse
now,
coyote.
so there is. There was a case recently. Some people went to Mexico for some sort of plastic surgery, like lap band surgery or something, and they didn't go to Tijuana. I'm not sure where they went, but it was apparently not the place you're supposed to go, and they got like, you know, kidnapped or whatever. But ultimately, I hear that like Tijuana, it's a good, you know, you go to, there's all like groups to do it. You go to like San Diego, and then they pick you up like in a car, and then there's like a hotel, and instead of like a, you know, that you get your shit done. And
Corey,
yeah, well, it's because the
not
cartel.
reverse. It's not reverse
Probably.
coyote. They're just doing this like they've got a good freight broker. You know, it's like a truck driver. Like instead of having to bring people here and then deadhead back, this is the return freight. They're picking something up to take on their way back. That way they're making money both ways. You don't have any.
Making no money with an empty load.
This is just good freight brokerage. I mean,
Juan's getting deported, so we can take him back.
People both ways.
It's a good business model. I bet you there's somebody in a cartel that's been sitting around thinking about like this is like the Marty Bird.
I could profit off of the deportation.
Like the Marty Bird of coyotes is sitting around like, you know what? We are wasting this trip back. Like we're getting the people there, but then we're just coming back with nothing to do. Like there's got to be some folks who are looking to get here so they can get some medical treatment or something. Like we can find a way to make money going both ways. We don't have to have this wasted trip. They've got some analytics dude that sat around and thought about this for a while. I was like, all right, we're gonna capitalize on both ways.
I like the idea of like the command center, cartel nerd there. He's sitting there like, yeah, how can we maximize the cartel profits?
That might be the same people I was talking about, Corey. South Carolina sounds right. I don't remember where they went, but yeah, they got like kidnapped or in a shootout or something fucking crazy.
Well, it's because like
if you go to Mexico, well, it depends on where you go. I mean, there's a lot of places in Mexico are fucking awesome, but a lot of them are really, really horrible. So you really gotta know what you're doing, you know. But yeah, it's funny because it's like traditionally it's like the idea is, oh no, people come here for surgeries, but it's like that's like cutting edge, life saving, you know, new technology. But it's like regular shit that's just like way overpriced because of fucking, you know, our
insurance,
our medical cartel, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
because of
some of them do it better.
Yeah, the racket of the insurance industry. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, there's also like, I mean, one of the devices I have in my heart was invented in the U.S., developed in the U.S., but was legal in like everywhere else in the world for like a decade before it was legal here. So it was like saving lives in like third world countries, you know, before people in America were allowed to have it, you know. So sometimes it's really crazy the opposite direction too, you know, where it's like you have to go out of the country in order to fucking get a life-saving procedure because our FDA is such a fucking well, to reuse the word, cartel. So but that being said, I'm very glad I live in the American medical system. It seems cleaner.
Yeah, I mean, there is some like there are like benefits and drawbacks to the regulations that they have.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, yeah, we get to get operated on in a clean, sterile environment, but you know, also like that might, you know, cost you an arm and a leg because of
it's still the third leading cause of death in the U.S. is medical error, though. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. Who knows?
Well,
the best thing is just stay out of the hospital. That's the best thing you can do all around. If you can stay out of the hospital, you know, proper diet and exercise, stay out of the hospital, you're good.
Isn't it interesting how the like North America goes so different? You've got Canada with their universal health care, but nobody can actually get treatment unless you're willing to let them help you off yourself. And then you've got the U.S. where you can get the best health care imaginable, but there's a good chance it's going to bankrupt you. Or you can go to Mexico and you can get some potentially shady health care for like really cheap, and like you're probably going to be all right most of the time. Like, but you know, if you don't go to the right place, you're worse off than if you might as well have let them made you in Canada.
Well, speaking of medical, you know, I would hate to, you know, get an aneurysm because
does not sound like fun.
But you know, if I do get an if my wife was like this, I would definitely hated because apparently my husband got an aneurysm and became a different person, so I divorced him. So
I'm willing to hear details.
this-
I mean, if he just
so
starts beating her mercilessly after the aneurysm, then okay, like fair.
oh no
Okay. Like, that's all I'm willing to hear. If it's
No.
he started leaving the toilet seat up every now and then it's like, all right, bitch.
When he was here's like her biggest problem. When he was present, Matthias would fixate on insignificant problems like a dirty rug and ignore the quote more important things the couple needed to attend to. The one silver lining was that he never reportedly acted angry or lashed out, a common aneurysm symptom that had seen in her friend's husband who experienced the condition.
How many people in her life are having aneurysms?
I
Not
don't
that
know.
common, is it?
I didn't think it was that common either, but
Apparently he stopped being very emotional. Like he lost some of his emotional connection to stuff.
Yeah,
he became more. It sounds like he became kind of autistic.
yeah, like the aneurysm gave him off.
Like, suddenly she was married to a libertarian and couldn't do it, so she just like bounced.
Don't you see how dirty this rug is? God damn it, the stove's on fire, Harold.
Oh,
This whole this makes for what, the like fourth or fifth article that we've looked at where like something happened to a dude and then his wife just like
up and
bails
leaves
on
him.
him because she
Well-
can't handle it. Like,
At least she didn't marry another guy and live in the house with him, though. So,
No, that was that one was
that was
next
pretty
level.
cool.
That was next level. I mean, like taking care of him, and then dude, I would literally just I don't know if even if I couldn't speak, I would somehow learn how to sign or something if I could, and try to say like, please just kill
Push me down the stairs.
him. Yeah, just
drive my wheelchair into the kitchen
just-
and turn the gas on and blow the whole house up with everybody in it. Yeah, I'm not doing this anymore.
Oh, just
Get a hold of the key fob, remote start the car inside the garage.
Scratch out a suicide letter. Fuck you, bitch.
oh my gosh.
Shit.
But yeah, I do think it's more common that I don't know if I haven't seen all the data, but I believe the last time that I saw it that it was more common when men have like something life changing that the women will leave more than the men will leave whenever like his wife has a life changing thing. Like a man doesn't usually just leave his wife when she has breast cancer or something like that.
Right, like why don't we see a bunch of these stories about dudes that the wife had something come up and they're like, oh, fuck this, that's not what I signed up for, I'm out.
A real
like-
man just starts playing around on Tinder in the few months before she dies, so that when she finally passes, you're ready to go.
Yeah,
You know, but you wait. You might.
That's right.
You
You're not,
know,
you're not bailing out on her. Like you're gonna.
Yeah.
That's that whole till death do us part thing. We take
You
that
wait
shit
till the
seriously.
death. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, you might,
wait
you might
till
be
the
baiting the hook ahead of time, but you're.
I mean, you got to hedge your bets. You got to be prepared. And nobody.
And then all of a sudden she survives. Like it's oh.
Like,
Let me delete the Tinder profile.
Delete the Tinder profile now.
Don't need that anymore.
Hey, it worked out.
Isn't like a Newt Gingrich? Wasn't he one of the famous guys who did something like that? He had a wife in the hospital dying, and he started like dating somebody.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Old Wayne's old fashioned. Look at him.
So Stephanie and I celebrated our 7-year anniversary yesterday, and my mom.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My mom a few weeks ago said Stephanie was saying something about she had put on a little bit of weight, which she was a rail when we got together. She's right at 6 foot, and I think when we first started dating, she weighed like 120 pounds. Like she was very twiggly, and which I'm 6'5", and at the time I only weighed like 180. I wasn't a whole lot bigger. So Stephanie had said something to my mom about how she had put on a little bit of weight, and my mom said, "Well, it's nice that y'all are getting fat together, because I have also put on quite a bit of weight. I carry it well, but I mean we both do. She's like 6 foot 160, and I'm 6'5", 220. Like we're the weights that we should be now, instead of being 40 pounds underweight. Like
Yeah,
Glad you guys got clean. Is your shirt from a family reunion or something?
Stephanie got it for me for my birthday one year.
Ah, cool. Didn't know if you all had matching shirts.
She probably just like found it, like someone. Oh, see the matching shirt. I couldn't do that. Like at a family like thing gathering, and like, oh, here you like wear a matching shirt. No,
It's how you know who the distant cousins are. Public place.
And then you don't flirt with the wrong person.
So you come to this park often?
My brother and I were at a party in college one time, and he was like, "Dude, Allie's pretty hot." I was like, "That's our cousin." He's like, "I'm just saying what you're thinking." I was like, "Yeah, but you keep that thought in your head. Like, I know this is Kentucky.
Don't say that out loud.
Like, you're not wrong, but you don't say that out loud. Just like some thoughts, you just let them marinate and then let it go. You don't have to announce it to the world. We don't all need to know that."
Yeah, I had a third cousin that I was kind of, I always kind of thought that, and then I was like, oh, man. I didn't realize I thought she was first cousin because of the way that so that I was like, okay.
Oh man, had you only known.
Yeah, It was like third cousin. Like,
Yeah, that's still okay in this part of the country.
Yeah, it is Alabama. Anything second and beyond. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, third. We're splitting hairs here. I don't technically even know what makes it like. I don't know what makes him like a second or a third.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, that is the big key. No one.
I think what I've heard is anything past second cousin, there's no risk of like weirdness coming out in the kids. There's not enough genetic similarities to.
I heard that South Carolina has a lot of six-toed people. Is that true, Corey? I'll wait.
What?
That's what I was told recently. Someone who was in South Carolina a lot. They said, yeah, there are a lot of six-toed people.
Is that like a genetic thing? Like
apparently because of the inbreeding.
Product of inbreeding?
Yeah, that's what somebody told me recently.
My cousin had 6 fingers.
Get out.
He did. He had to like it was just like a flab of skin though. Like he didn't have the bone didn't like
that. So
they
that
had
was
to
going
cut
to
it
be my
off.
next question was what was it like? Was it like there's a whole other like opposable finger?
Oh,
I'd be
no.
like, leave that bitch on.
Well, yeah, it was everything, like it was all the skin, but it wasn't like the bone,
like a nipple.
bones didn't form. So now they cut it off, and he's got a little nub left.
Can you imagine like growing another thumb out of the other side, and then you can like grab shit from both ways?
Yeah, man, that's
you're right and left-handed at the same time.
Somebody get old Chuck Darwin on the phone. We got a fucking evolution going on here. The question, Corey, was: is it true that people in South Carolina, a lot of them have 6 toes? Somebody told me that recently, and they said it's because of the inbreeding. And yes, J4K, I think you're right. Line breeding, which is always when I heard like how line breeding is done, I'm like, oh, that's basically just forced inbreeding. But that's how you like make a breed of something like unique. But I'm like, how does that function and not just fuck it up? But maybe that's why a lot of times purebred dogs have way more health problems than mutt dogs too. I guess that makes sense.
That's what they do with the royal family. Or
at
least used to. Before Meghan Markle got involved, they realized they needed to get a little diversity in there. It's getting a little too. Once they start producing more than one ginger, like in a generation, then it's like, all right, like it's time. We got to get some fresh blood in here.
You got to throw an Asian in there every couple generations to weed out those ginger. Yeah.
Right, like now we're just breeding soulless monsters. It's time to got to break up the monotony here.
All right, so it It tracks. Only his hot cousins have 6 toes. Oh, never mind. Sorry. Sorry, I see it the wrong way. Yeah. All the hot ones' kids have 6 toes. Isn't it like the Kentucky blue people or something? Was that a real thing?
What?
The blue skin Kentucky people? Hold up.
I've never heard of this.
I'll look it up. You guys riff.
Let's see. The Fugate family of Eastern Kentucky are also known as the Blue Fugates, or the Blue People of Kentucky, were known for having a genetic trait that led to a blood disorder, methemoglobemia, causing the skin to appear blue. They lived in isolation in the mountains for years due to the affliction. Sounds like it was just a health disorder that
they were just like, otherwise they would have been accused of witchcraft and burned, so they just had to go live in the mountains alone, and that forced their inbreeding, which made this worse. That's probably what happened.
That's probably fairly accurate.
At least the people in the town were nice enough to just let them live in their weird blue holler.
They probably made some bomb moonshine, so
yeah.
I mean, if your
blood is chocolate colored. Oh,
wait, what?
Is it their blood is?
Yeah, the reason they appear blue is because their blood is a different color than normal blood. So like our red blood it shows up, in your veins and stuff, but their blood is a different color, so it causes their skin to look different.
Most blue fugates never suffered any health effects and lived into their 80s and 90s. Wow.
They just look funny.
Yeah. Huh? Cool. Do we have pictures? Did you pull up pictures?
There is pictures
Incest juice?
Oh my gosh. Papa Smurf. The people are calling him Papa Smurf. Like there's a guy, one of the guys.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah, it looks kind of rough.
You're gonna pull up the pictures or what?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now. Yeah, here we go.
go.
Look at this shit.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
Those...
Man,
I mean,
people call black people eggplants, but like that's eggplant. Oh, here they are when they got on Broadway.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, aside from the purple skin, he otherwise a normal looking dude.
Yeah. Jeez Louise, man.
Interesting.
Is this the only one we have pictures of? Oh, it looks like there's a book here. Oh, it's too small to see.
I wonder what happens like when they get when they get like pissed off or whatever. Like do they turn purple or something?
they look like this. When they get mad, they somehow, when you introduce the red, they look like angry. Oh, that fucker's got blue eyes.
Interesting.
Huh. Yeah. And there's a race we didn't even know existed.
That's right. See, that's whenever they say, I don't care if you're black, white, red, green, purple. The purple, they're talking about these folks.
Yeah. Oh man, what was their name? Here, I'll find it. These people, I think we talked about it briefly on here before. What were they called? Let's see. Give me a second. I'll find it. Let's see.
They are the purest of pure blood, so I would say probably so. They get to wear the special. They get to wear the special purple cloaks and qualify for Grand Dragonry. Not that I know anything about the hierarchy of the KKK or anything. It's not like not like we did an episode on that.
Speaking of Grand Dragons,
yeah, these people. Sorry, just real quick. These are the Whitakers, and there's like another episode where they like break down like their family tree, and they're like, yeah, we think this is like where the
some of your brothers and sisters probably didn't go to school, or how much schooling did they get?
This guy just worked with the dog.
I didn't wish too long.
This one's the only one who can sort of talk.
You graduated from what?
Well, was in high school.
You went to high school, Timmy?
Yeah, he was too long. High school
There's
all day.
there's an episode where they take him to
And how about you, Lorraine?
No, they didn't
Walmart
went to
for like a
school.
shopping
didn't?
spree.
And
It is something.
No, they didn't went to school.
Let's see if we get this guy talking. He barks like a dog. Oh man, they go inside and there's just like poop
What?
everywhere. It's pretty rough. See? Dude, they like showed this one, and then
What's
people
your
sent
favorite
them
memory, Ray? Do you
so
remember
much
anything about
money,
your life?
like hundreds of thousands of dollars. They got themselves a brand new trailer.
Good.
And you lost.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Good
something.
God. That's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen some, meth billies and stuff like that, but I've never seen anything quite like that.
Yeah, that's like IQ of like 53 kind of family of people there. It's it's something. There's some other ones. There's a big deal where like, oh yeah, people want to come and see them, and so there's a whole warning like, please don't come see them. Like the neighbors will shoot you. The sheriff there will not tolerate people coming by and fucking with them. Because people are aware of them.
Like, this is not a
How
circus
they do
act. Stay the fuck away.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
just leave them alone.
Right, I mean, it's not their fault that their parents were cousins or brothers or whatever it is.
I say they're probably closer than cousins. And
Yeah.
it was, and probably a couple generations worth to get to
Yeah.
that point.
Brother and sister, and then all of a sudden they have a brother and sister.
A broster.
Yeah.
So now we feel better about our bloodlines.
Yeah, I mean, at least our family trees branch out.
Yeah. So what's the serious topic we're supposed to talk about today?
All right, so over the weekend there was a coup in Russia. Have you heard of the? Have you
An
heard
insurrection, if you will.
of the? Yeah. Have you heard of the Wagner Group?
That's right. Okay. Yeah, I
So
heard
the
a little bit about this, but I wasn't
The
sure
Wagner
what.
Group is this like mercenary group. It's a Russian mercenary group, largely comprised of like ex-convicts or even current convicts. Like they pull people out of prison and they're like, you get to go fight against Ukraine, or we leave you in prison for the rest of your life until you rot and
Basically,
die.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah. What would you? So, would you like to die in jail, or would you like to die as a free man fighting against Ukrainians? And obviously the correct choice is let's go shoot some motherfuckers. So that's what they do. Well, anyway, interestingly enough, after the Pentagon discovers that they had like $6.2 billion extra to give to Ukraine because of an accounting error or something, then like 2 days later, this mercenary Wagner group decides to start an insurrection and turns on Putin. But
interesting.
even though the CNN and
Now,
the New York Times and all of mainstream media were declaring that this was the end of the Putin regime and that it was going to be civil war in Russia, the whole thing got situated over the course of about 4 hours. And the guy who was like leading the charge with the Wagner group he's now in Belarus, I think. Like
Belarus, they got moved to Belarus, and because
he got moved to Belarus. The Wagner group is now so they got it all situated. Everybody's back on good terms. Apparently, it wasn't actually a problem with Putin. It was a problem with the FSB or something. Was what the leader of this whole coup had a problem with, and so they got it all situated. And now the Wagner group is like stationed like 50 kilometers outside of Kiev. Like the Wagner group is the reason that Ukraine hasn't been able to make any progress in the Bakhmut region. And now they're stationed like 50 miles outside of Kiev. Like Russia got the whole coup sorted, and now they're like positioning pieces to put
like
it
moving the chess pieces. Yeah,
put it into this war entirely. from the sound of it anyway.
Well, but part of the I guess something that the American media didn't cover as much that I was, you know, for people that I was watching on YouTube, kind of had a little bit more inside knowledge. Apparently the reason that he was upset, the leader of the Wagner group, is because they were accidentally doing some like friendly fire on some of his men. So he's like, "Look, I got stacked dead bodies of guys. Y'all aren't giving us enough ammunition. So like, if you're not going to do anything about this, we're going to go to the source of the problem, and we're going to get this resolved." Basically, that's essentially what he did. He's like, "Well, if you're not gonna deal, you know, deal on our terms, then we're gonna go set the terms, I guess." Because I think that's what it was. They also they were in the they weren't positioned in the best like spot. I think he did want to kind of be more on the front of the conflict to try to push this and end it. But it's funny that people were saying this is like a private military group, and I was like, they're about as private as Facebook. Like that's essentially as private as they are. Like, I mean, they work directly with the government. There's no denying that. So
Can you imagine if the Ukrainians tried to pull a coup every time they were taking friendly fire? Like they'd have been marching on Kiev to overthrow Zelensky like 17 times.
oh man, it's funny though that they just think that it's like it's okay because this is how war goes. So
Did you see the thing with the? I thought we might have talked about it. Maybe talked about it on Paneling Fiction. There was like some U.S. military guys that went over there to like help the Ukrainians, and they're like, these motherfuckers are just like firing off mortar rounds at each other. They're like, we're supposed to be getting cover fire from Ukrainian artillery, and instead of getting cover fire that's being aimed or that's being lobbed at the Russians, they're putting it on top of us. Like we're getting shot on by our own cover fire. Like
getting shelled and then
like apparently Ukraine is not very well equipped for going to war. Well, and I guess it makes sense because they've mostly been going to war with themselves for the last 8 years. So they would probably think that they should be shelling their own people, not going after anybody else. So yeah, that's the serious topics of the day. You keeping up with any of this, Dak?
No, not really. I was kind of curious this week when we could just hear the list of all the stuff that happened last week while everyone was distracted with the sub. I'm sure there was a lot of really interesting stuff that actually happened that nobody covered.
Yeah, you were out because you missed the Hunter Biden got the big plea deal. They dropped all the gun charges. He really only got a slap on the wrist for like some tax evasion type stuff. He was writing off hookers and blow as tax write-offs and business expenses. So,
I fully support that, by the way.
But like not even trying to hide it. Like
yeah,
just,
yeah, you don't put that on the tax form, you know.
Right.
Entertainment. You're allowed to put entertainment.
yes,
That's okay.
Like,
Be better.
Who was it that said Hunter Biden's literally writing off hookers and blow and illegal firearms, and we're out here having to pay taxes, like getting audited by the IRS? Fuck this shit. Like,
like a 600. Like if you get $600 from PayPal, then you know that then you have to be audited. But if he's writing off hookers,
if this is finally the year that they come after me for what I don't pay, I'm gonna be like, that was just hookers and blow. I wasn't sure how to write it up. I couldn't get a hold of Hunter's accountants, but like you can just forgive that like you did him. It's the same thing. I promise. You take my word for it, like you take his word for it.
Don't worry, it's a write-off.
That's right. It is definitely a write-off.
Big companies like that, they just write things off. You don't even know what a write-off is.
All right, I want to hear this joke. It takes 3 Ukrainians to change a light bulb. What are they doing?
Well, one to hold the light bulb and the other 2 to hold the ladder and spin.
I like
You can
They
put
do
any
have
group
the-
in there. It doesn't have to
Dancing
be Ukrainians.
Zelensky.
They do have the best window makers in Ukraine, though.
Whew,
Hands
I remember
down,
that.
by
Yeah,
far.
strong,
Hmm.
explosion proof. Well, with all the war they have, it just makes sense.
It
Financial
makes sense,
to-
yeah. I mean, when
yeah,
you're
yes.
when you're
Spring for the
constantly
explosion proof. Yeah,
that's right. When you're constantly at war, you have to buy the explosion proof windows. Otherwise, like you're going to be changing your windows every other week.
Yeah,
And nobody's
they
got
pay for
time or-
themselves after only 3 government changes.
That's
So,
right. That's,
Yeah.
nobody's got
3
time for all
coups.
that.
3 different coups. Like, yeah.
Plus, it gets cold, and the installers are backed up. Like they're doing so many that if you don't get at the front of the list, it's going to be like middle of January, and you're going to literally freeze to death while you wait for them to get your windows in. So you got to pay that extra money and get the explosion proof windows. That way, you're not going to freeze to death during the winter.
Yeah, but then the house gets blown up, and then you're like, oh, man, they blew out another wall. Like,
Just windows.
You got like studs holding the window up, but everything else is gone. Like, now, when are we going to get the explosion proof drywall? That's what we're waiting on next.
I was like, oh hell, they blew out a wall, but at least my windows are okay.
Best windows this side of on the eastern hemisphere. Like,
It's like open.
Oh fuck.
Uh,
So we
speaking
met
of going to war. Oh,
I was gonna say we met a guy this week. Me and Wayne did. They come over to get some tattoos done, and so we were talking to the husband, and we were excited because the wife told us, oh, he works on the drag line out at Mosaic, which I was last Monday when I was autisming out about towers, and I said my next thing that I want to learn about is these drag lines. And then like the next day she's like, oh, they're coming over and he works with drag line. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get to talk to somebody who works on one of these things about it. This is gonna be great. So me and Wayne are all stoked. Anyhow, they show up and they're very nice. A little bit better looking than the Whitakers there. But we're talking to this dude, and it quickly comes that he's not a dragline operator at all. He works on what's called a dredge barge. But he goes, yeah, he says, yeah, he says to Wayne, he's like, boy, I take home $1,300 a week. You know, and he's like, oh, all right, well, not bad, not bad. He's like, yep, that's right. 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. He's like, you want to make some money? You come on out. I'll get you a job, kind of thing. Like, what? Horrible. So this guy, he works in what's called the dredge barge. I'll pull up a picture here of the things, or not the thing, but the area. But but basically, his job is to sit and watch these people who basically work in a giant pool of acid. He watches, and if somebody falls into the giant pool of acid, he makes the phone call, like call for help. That's his job. He watches this. Watches these people work. It's fucking crazy.
I mean, that ain't bad money, even though those are like long hours. If your entire
That's
job
all
is
you're
just to
doing.
sit there and make a phone call if somebody falls in, like how often does somebody fall in?
I hope not that often. Like, oh man, your hair will fall out. You don't want to get none of it up to pee.
Like you know, you might not want to spend an excessive
Wayne
amount of
fell
time
in
watching
again.
Netflix while you're sitting there, just in case it happens. But at the same time, like if it's a pretty infrequent thing, and you know, if somebody falls in, other people are going to yell when it happens. So like something's going to catch your attention.
Yeah,
you like fall
like it's a
asleep.
crew of people.
You're
Why
like
is this
napping.
somebody's job?
Okay. Oh hell, let's call again.
All right. So here, check this out. Let's see. Down the sludge bar. We was playing fetch with Geach. That's our old smell hound. All right. So this is Central Florida. And you see we have a lot of lakes and stuff like that. But if you actually look and you zoom in, you see all this green.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell by the shape that's not natural. So basically all this here is like owned. It's like 300,000 square acres or something by Mosaic. And they dredge it up for phosphates. So they take the big dredger machines, and what we're interested in is the big dredger machines that do this here. They scoop it up with a drag line, put it somewhere, it gets shipped off to processing facilities that are all over the place out here that process it. But see, this is all old mining. But so if you get like okay, let's see. Oh, there's a big one here. Okay. Like in this, like this is like a big tank, basically they call it. There's like a big wall around it. Oh, this is a good one too. There's a big wall around it of like dirt. Actually, the highest point in Central Florida, I think, is this one right here. This is near a town called Bartow. It's like hundreds of feet in the air. It's called a gypsum stack. All this shit's radioactive, first off.
Oh wow.
But in okay, here, perfect. See this? This is a gypsum stack. This wall, it's a giant wall, hundreds of feet tall. See it for miles. Inside of it, see these different colors. So this is what's called a cooling tank. This is where the guy works, down in this shit, where they suck up the shit at the bottom to reprocess it. And so they work on a barge out in this stuff. And yeah, I guess he sits on the bank out here and calls for help if something happens. But yeah,
Is
man,
he getting radiation from that though? Like if you're saying that
it's slightly radioactive. I'm not 100% sure on this. I'm still working on it. They're very secretive about a lot of this shit. It's kind of hard to find out info on this. That's why I was excited to talk to somebody who works there, you know. But I think when they say that we have like 10 years of the world's power supply already stored in thorium as waste, I think they're talking about this shit. But a lot of it is uranium. Now, this is where all your fertilizer comes from, and uranium goes with it. So all your fertilizer that's like on your spray, corn and shit out where you guys live, that all comes from right here. And yeah, it's radioactive, and they've been putting it on your fucking fields for a century now.
God knows how long. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of buildup. But yeah, in there that's the tanks. But yeah, I mean, just look at this. It's crazy. I doubt I could find a dredger or a drag line on here, but it's possible. If I do, I'll pull it up.
But you can see them from the like.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could from the thing. I mean, these things are just massive pieces of equipment. I mean, they're fascinating, dude. Like as much as like that's like gross, and I hate that like they're tearing up like the center of my state. Like, I'm not like saying let's ban it because I think there are different ways to feed the world, but they do make the fertilizer that like everybody in the world that like uses fertilizer depends on, so it's kind of hard for me to say like no. But it is
between
gross, but
them and apparently Ukraine too.
Yeah. I think it's something like here and then South Carolina, I think it was, are the two biggest places for phosphate mining.
So is this stuff naturally occurring? Like,
yeah, and basically what it is certain parts of the world, and this part of Central Florida, there's a lot that. So it's deposits of like animals, bone, not like fossil fuels like the goop, but like bones and shit. It's called Bone Valley. It's actually the name of the place. So when you go like 15 to 30 feet down, there's this phosphate layer, this phosphate rock, and so they dredge it up with this giant dragline bucket. Which is, I mean, this guy was breaking it down, how many RVs or F-150s you could park in each of them, but they scoop it up, and then it uses a ton of power. They send it off into like these processing facilities. They heat it and they extract the phosphates out of it. And then they anything that's phosphates, that's what it's used for, primarily fertilizer. And they discovered here, it was like the late 1800s, I think, when they discovered the deposits here. So they've been mining the area like since then. Every now and then there'll be a story. There's one out in Lakeland recently, the big rich people community, with all the real fancy houses. They built a new section, and then everyone started like getting high radon readings, and they went back and found out they used to mine there back in like the 30s, and they didn't. Nowadays they have to do what's called reclamation and clean it up a little bit when they're done, but they didn't have to back then. So it was just like they just built this like fancy rich ass neighborhood on top of it, and it was like toxic. And so they were pretty upset and, suing. And, I know it sucks for everybody, but, it's just funnier when it happens to rich people. I don't hate rich people. It is just funny. I don't have to feel as bad, right? When it's some poor person, it's like, it was already down on their luck, right? Yeah. But yeah, so that'll happen from time to time out here. You get instances like that. But
is it a whole lot of like work to do to get it to be effectively livable after they do that? Like, so we've talked about lithium mining and copper mining, like the stuff that they have to do to extract the elements that are making all of this like green energy shit. And effectively, whenever they're done with those mines, like, you have salted the earth. Like, that shit is useless. It is now poison. You can't put people there. Nothing. Like, it's done for. Whereas like here, We got coal mines all over the place, and once they get done with a coal mine, they just backfill it and turn it into fucking farmland. Like it's low mitigation on, you know, cleaning everything up after they're done. What is it? Is it like a high level of stuff that they got to do to get it to be like not toxic to people moving in, or
it's hard to say because like there's natural background radiation everywhere, so whatever the state requires, like there's a lot of real sleazy shit that goes on between this company and the state, so it's hard to say for sure. I think that when they do the reclamation, they put some wetlands, they plant a bunch of trees, and then I'm sure once it sets long enough, it goes back. There's a lot of places that they're starting to build, like you can get lakefront property, which is an old dredge lake basically. It's obviously man-made, and they're building houses on it. I mean, I guess I'd have to assume it's safe enough. I know a guy who lives on. I mean, the house has been there since the 50s, but his pond is obviously used to be a pit. And he's like, "Yeah, you can come on fishing anytime you want." I haven't. I hear the bass out there are huge. So who knows what that means?
Make sure you cook them extra well before you eat them. Just, you don't want to get all of those potential toxins out whenever you cook it.
So if you run into somebody who works at Mosaic, like let's say at a bar or something, you see him wearing a Mosaic shirt, and you go, "Oh, Mosaic, what do you guys do?" They don't say they're a mining company. They say, "Oh, we feed the world." So that's always suspicious when somebody does it. And if you watch TV commercials, because they had TV commercials, all their TV commercials, if you just saw their TV commercials, you'd think they were just an environmentalist, we save the animals company, because all their commercials are them bragging about the scrub jay was on the verge of extinction, but we did all this and brought it back. And it's like, right, but you neglected to say that you guys were the reason it was on the verge of extinction, like because you're destroying its habitat, So it's like, and again, I mean, I'm not saying we don't have to mine, but let's not be liars here, like let's
just be honest, be like, hey, we need this stuff. We use it up. We're messing up the earth. Yeah.
Yep. It's sorry, step on you there, but yeah, that's exactly it. It's crazy, but but yeah, we save the world whenever that's their thing. It's just like, it's. So to answer your question, Justin, I don't know, and I also don't know on like the lithium stuff and all that. If there's ways that they could mine it where it would be returnable, if it's just done in somewhere where they don't care, because like they could mine this shit in a way where it's really hard to come back.
I've actually done too much research on the lithium and the copper mining. The way they have to, the way they have to leach that stuff to extract it in a usable form, it's effectively they're creating unnatural pools from the water that they're having to use to leach that stuff, and it poisons everything. Like there's not. I have, at least for modern technology, what they have.
Okay. Well, on that note,
are like fuck the planet. We're getting this shit out. Like doesn't appear to be a alternative.
That's the case with a lot of this stuff then, because they say with the gypsum, the radioactive gypsum, they have no idea what to do with it. And the shit in those pools, in the gypsum stacks, those big pools, about every 10 years, there's an incident where there gets to be a crack in the bottom of one of them, and that shit we were looking at drains into the aquifer. And their only solution to that is to pump millions of gallons out of the aquifer a day to keep it from spreading. So like they have a permit from the state to pump 60 million gallons of water a day from the aquifer for the sole purpose of diluting their pollutants enough to be able to dump them in the river. So they're dumping the same amount of pollutants in the river. They're if they dilute them enough to make it below a certain threshold, they can dump in the river. So there's a lot of really fucked up shit that they do that they don't have a solution for in this,
So I guess that way,
I guess to answer your question then, yeah.
Maybe if it's diluted enough, then when they process it through, when it goes back through the cycle of like through the water treatment plant, then maybe they can actually filter it out once it's at a certain level.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it just goes in the Peace River, but then the Peace River, they get a lot of blame for that too. But the Peace, I think our county up until the 80s just used the lake to dump raw sewage into, and then the 80s said we're not going to do this anymore, and they just like opened it up into the river. It's like, oh, great! So it's just like fuck now. There's tons of stories of disasters that happened with this company in Tampa Bay. Like a bunch of their shit went in the bay one time, and it killed like half the bay. Like in the 80s, I think. Like there's a lot of really nasty stuff that's happened. Again, there are things we need from mining. Let's just try and do the best job we can, I guess.
If you dilute it enough, then there's a high probability that the people who are drinking the water and eating the fish that come from it aren't going to end up retarded.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.